How many of you all have heard the term war capitalism, and hat tip to the great Sven Beckert for that term? What would you say if I told you that George Washington himself was one of the greatest war capitalists this country has ever seen? And I like George Washington, so just hang with me. You might have heard of the term disaster capitalism, where companies move in after a natural or political disaster and they take advantage of the chaos that's already happened. I saw this everywhere when I worked in human rights, but it didn't feel like a new concept. And I realized it was just the modern version of something much older. What I was seeing was capitalism responding to disasters, but the American system was built on capitalism creating disasters. That's war capitalism. Nation states and private capital work together to violently clear land, to break societies, and then extract wealth. Case in point, the indigenous peoples across North and South America were displaced by force by European militias, fully funded by private capital, people trying to become rich off of this stuff. And in what we now call West and Central Africa, European corporations, often backed by their national governments, they collude with local African elites to enslave people and ship them to those same seized lands. And once the land is cleared and the labor controlled, the wealth is extracted through agriculture, minerals, timber, whatever can be pulled from the ground. And when the American colonists rebel against the British, part of what they're rebelling against was their limited ability to fully engage in war capitalism. Take George Washington. I'm not saying he wasn't a baller. I mean, I couldn't hold a candle to that man. But like a lot of soldiers in the 1760s, he expected his military service to translate into land grants. And he fights wars that open this sort of territory up. But then the British flipped the script. In 1763, Britain bars settlement west of the Appalachians. And Washington, he's pissed, and a lot of other American soldiers are too. But after the War of Independence, those limits disappear. Washington uses his insider knowledge to acquire massive land holdings, and he becomes one of the largest landowners of his time. And once he becomes president, the US military is used to support the dispossession of native lands, sometimes outright ignoring treaties. That land is then surveyed, divided up, and sold at scale. Now, Washington's not the only one who profited, of course. Tons of Americans did. But by the time George Washington leaves the presidency, he's one of the richest men in America. A conservative estimate in today's dollars puts the value of his land between $500 and $600 million when he dies. George Washington doesn't dismantle war capitalism, he profits from it, and he helps turn it into an American tradition.